right now there is no interest in crypto, Bitcoin, or altcoins. But there is one thing that's happening relatively soon that could mark the bottom for Bitcoin. We're going to take a look at what that is, because right now nobody seems to care about crypto. And typically speaking, when the sentiment is this low, it's usually when we get a reversal. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and let's talk about what you need to know and what's about to happen. First and foremost, as I'm recording this video, we are minutes away from finally seeing a bill pass to end the US government shutdown. That is likely going to bring a bullishness in the markets tomorrow. Whether or not that is just going to be a relief rally and we go back down, we're going to have to wait and see. But ultimately speaking, this is the first step in the right direction, in my opinion. And I think you guys would all agree in this. Now, what we are seeing right now for Bitcoin is a little bit scary, because if you look at it on a weekly chart, we are currently sitting around $102,000, and we are below that 50-week moving average, which is this blue line here, which is currently sitting around 103,100. So we are about, $1,000 off of that. The weekly candle closes in the next 4 days, so there's still plenty of time for it to bounce back above it. But we have now seen, 2 weeks where this level of support has continued to be tested. And over time, as it continues to be tested, if there isn't a rally, in my opinion, it may just fall and we may see Bitcoin's price go lower. But like I said at the beginning, there is something that's happening within the next few days that could change the trajectory for Bitcoin's price. If we take a look at this indicator, we are talking about the death cross, which on the day chart, if you put the 50-day moving average and you also put the 200-day moving average, here we have them. The 50-day moving average is in blue, the 200-day moving average is in red, and the death cross is when the short-term moving average crosses below the long-term moving average, which, as you can see, if I zoom in here, these two lines are about to cross, and we are about to get that death cross, which historically speaking is very, bearish. And the name itself basically, gives it a bearish connotation. So why is this actually a potential reversal spot for Bitcoin? The reason for this is because historically we have seen some death crosses actually be positive for Bitcoin's price. If we go back to, the long consolidation time of January 2025 all the way to April 2025, well, looking at when this, death cross happened, we can see it happen right around the first week of April. And during that time, Bitcoin was absolutely flushing. But soon after, Bitcoin reversed, found a local bottom around, $75,000 back in April, and made new all-time highs throughout after the death cross had happened. So if we look at just how long we were actually in a, quote unquote, death cross, it was roughly from the beginning of April all the way to the middle to end of May. So roughly speaking, about 40 to 45 days where we were, in this bearish territory of the death cross. But look at the price of Bitcoin. Bitcoin's price went from, 75,000 all the way to 112,000 and put in about 50% gain during that time. So that is number one. And if we go even further back to, let's say, August of 2024, let me zoom in here, put this a little bit bigger so you guys can see. The death cross happened right around August 10th. And we can see that leading up to it, this was the 6-month brutal consolidation period from, March all the way to August, even September. But leading up to this death cross, we had a massive dip on Bitcoin over the span of a few weeks. It dipped all the way 30%, bounced back to about a dip of 11%. Then we have the death cross, and then we had another low after that death cross. But if you look at when we, recrossed or got the golden cross yet again, it was about 2 months later. So from August 10th to October 27th. And looking at what Bitcoin did during that time, it was a lot more flat than the one we just saw. But ultimately speaking, Bitcoin still went up 10%. And then soon after, it went absolutely to the moon and made a new all-time high. So this is why a lot of people are looking at the death cross right now and looking at some previous examples as to when it happened and what happened afterwards. And over the last two events, we have seen bullish action after a death cross. Now, you also have to understand that we're talking about moving averages here. Moving averages are lagging indicators because it takes the moving average of, let's say, the last 50 days or the last 200 days. So that is a lagging indicator because it's looking at past historical prices. Now, there are times, of course, where the death cross actually continued to bring bearishness to the markets. So in the next couple of days, we are definitely going to monitor what's happening to the death cross, what is happening in terms of the US government reopening, and hopefully liquidity flows back into the markets and we do get a sustained bounce, because we don't want just a relief rally, we want a more sustainable bounce. And if we take a look at some of the other events that are obviously happening in the next few weeks, well, we do have that Fed cut potentially happening. The odds are continuing to drop. We are not getting any economic data because the US government has been shut down. So hopefully all of that gets back on track. Right now, the odds of a December rate cut are at 60%. Just over the last week, they were at 70%. So they are diminishing. But again, I would put that to the lack of data that we are having. And also, if you look at anyone, in crypto right now, the entire social interest in crypto is practically gone. Even though Bitcoin is still above $100,000, you are seeing that nobody actually cares. If you look at crypto's trends or Google searches over the last year, we are practically back down to, some of the lows that we've been over the last year. And again, there hasn't been a huge amount of interest in crypto. And if you look at altcoins, we're basically back to some of the lows that we were, before we had the spike when Ethereum hit all-time highs in August. We are right back down to where there's no interest in altcoins. And if you look at the fear and greed index over the last year, we had a dip in March, we had a dip in April. Again, coincides perfectly with what we had in terms of the death cross in April. Had the biggest amount of dips on Bitcoin in April. Everybody said it was absolutely over. And then we had the death cross. Bitcoin rally, the social interest and the fear and greed was at all-time lows, or, very much close to it. And we are getting in the same range here for this current fear and greed index. We're right around 25. But again, fear, social interest is absolutely in the markets right now. There are a few bullish catalysts, as we've explained, that are upcoming. The Fed is going to end quantitative tightening on December 1st, which now is only 3 weeks away. So we are just going to have to wait and see what happens to Bitcoin first and then to altcoins, because as we know, altcoins are not going to move if Bitcoin doesn't move first. Then it goes to Ethereum, large caps, and finally some of these low caps. So keep an eye on that death cross. Keep an eye on the liquidity coming back into the markets. Hopefully we see a sustained bounce on Bitcoin, because as we know right now, we are in very much so the danger territory, as I would call it, because we are finding ourselves below that 50-week moving average. And taking a look at altcoins right now, they are slightly bouncing on Bitcoin's pairs, but again, it's pretty much negligible and we are still waiting for QT to end. So that is going to be your update today. Let me know what you guys think about the current markets. I know it's been a very long time since we've been waiting for some sort of momentum. It's now been about 8 weeks of pure nothing or pure downtrend for Bitcoin. So it has been a very long time. And again, staying hopeful, but being cautious, as I understand that things can flip on their heads. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button. It truly helps out the channel, as well as make sure you are subscribed subscribed. If you're not, I think there's only about 30% of you who watch these videos that are actually subscribed. So make sure you subscribe. Thank you guys for all the support, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace.